You're listening to the Easy Feed podcast, episode number 75, Feeding Kids in the Fast Lane. 3 simple tips for time poor parents.
Hi there, I'm Karina Savage, and with over 20 years experience feeding children, including my own, I've learnt all the secrets that busy mums need to get their children eating better and actually enjoying healthy foods. So a huge welcome to the Easy Feed podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's great to have you, and thank you for being here for another episode of the Easy Feed. It's great that this podcast is getting out to all parts of, the globe, which is so good. It's great to be able to share this information with parents all over and, even grandparents as well. I saw a patient online the other day and I said, "Oh, how did you hear about me?" And she said, "Oh, my mum listens to your podcast." So that was great because I could, help her because her mum listens to my podcast. And then it's so funny, actually. My daughter says, "Oh my gosh, mum, some of my friends listen to your podcast." And I'm thinking, well, not sure you're my target audience, but okay, then if they can learn some tips, then great. So you just don't know who's listening to your podcast, but I know that it is getting out there and helping people. So thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing my podcast. And please actually give me a review because hit the star rating, give me a review because that helps get the podcast out to more and more parents and we can just share the love, right? So today I wanted to talk about feeding kids in the fast lane. I recently did a talk online to a bunch of Google parents, which was wonderful. I love doing corporate talks because, it's really good to help everybody, especially those that are working part-time, full-time and trying to juggle everything. And it's really hard sometimes to try and keep on top of it all. I mean, even if you're not working and you're a full-time mum at home, trying to juggle, kids and commitments and everything, it can be very challenging trying to keep on top of everything. So I wanted to just give some quick tips to help simplify the week because let's be honest, feeding and running kids around can feel like a full-time job on top of the job that you might already have between school runs and after school activities and sports and I even had to run to the doctors to get my son some extra antibiotics because he has had tonsillitis and we thought that it was all done and dusted, but then, I think his throat's still a bit sore and it's a bacterial one, so we actually needed the antibiotics. So then we've walked the dog. I've come back home, made the lunch boxes. My son's ridden off to school. I've dropped her at the bus stop to catch the bus to go to school. She probably could walk, but she doesn't. I'm a yes mum, and I drop her at the bus stop. Often she's laden with so many bags anyway, hanging off her shoulders. So I was like, okay, I'll drop you at the bus stop. And then I dug to the chemist, grabbed the next script of antibiotics. Then I rushed to school because I wanted my son to get onto it because his throat's getting sore. And I'm like, okay, we need to just keep this going. Gave him the antibiotics because he met me at the gate because the school gates hadn't opened yet. So he rides to school. But luckily the timing was perfect. I could quickly give it to him. Then he got into school. And then I came home and sort of went, right, now let's like regroup. But, life's busy and you're running around. And sometimes when you get to work, I remember sometimes you get to work and it's like, right, now I can actually sit down and have a cup of tea and actually rest. So it's, yeah, it's busy, right? Life is just busy. So I think trying to have some strategies in place to simplify life a little, it can really help. Structure can really help. And it can also mean that you are feeding your kids a little more healthy and the whole family is a little more healthy because when you're not planning or when you don't have any structure, that's when the takeaway creeps in a lot more, the junk snacks creep in a lot more. And, because it only takes an extra couple of junk snacks that creep in consistently day in, day out, an extra couple of takeaway meals that sneak in consistently each week to really change the nutrition that your family is eating. And, I've just been running my 5 days to healthier kids challenge this week. And we're always talking about making small changes, but consistent changes, small, consistent wins that when done consistently will add up. And I guess the opposite is true that if you have those junk foods or junk snacks creeping back in consistently, then things are going to go downhill in terms of their gut microbiome, in terms of their immune system, and everything starts to get a little more unhealthy. And you may not notice it at first, but you then might start to see their poos change. They might get a bit more constipated, or they might start to get sick more often, or they just don't feel as good. Their behavior might be off. And that can be a direct result of poorer nutrition. Last night in the 5 Days to Healthy Challenge, I was talking all about sugar and the direct impact of sugar on attention, behavior, gut health. Food is medicine. Food affects us way more than we even realize. And the same goes for our children. So the next time your child's misbehaving, it might not just be their temperament. Have a look at what they've eaten, because that can directly impact their overall health, well-being, and behavior and mood. Absolutely. So I've got 3 tips for you today. I just want to interrupt this podcast because I have a very time-sensitive public service announcement. It relates to my Nourishing Kids membership being open right now, only for another 24 to 48 hours, depending on when you listen to this podcast episode. It's my Nourishing Kids membership. It's the last time it's going to be open to new members for the rest of the year. So if you're interested in joining, you need to head to nourishwithkarina.com/nourishing kids, or just click on the link, and that will take you to my membership where you can join at the moment. As I said, it's open right now, and it's the last time it's going to be open for the rest of the year. So come in and join us. It's a beautiful community of parents, and it's such a wonderful way to support families. Check it out. It's hands down the easiest way that you're going to improve how your family eats, and you're going to have me in your corner helping you do it. Okay, back to the episode. Number 1 is to plan loosely, not perfectly, but plan something, because having a rough plan in place makes such a big difference. I know that I'm guilty of not planning. And when I do just some loose planning, oh my goodness, it makes such a difference to the week. It makes it so much easier when you get to 5:30 and like, oh my gosh, I've got to quickly pull something together. You've got it there and you can put something together. Even if it's the simplest dinner, at least you've got the ingredients there and you've got an idea that's a seed that's planted somewhere deep down in your subconscious that you've actually thought about maybe last Sunday. And you're like, right, I can pull together this meal. Great, let's go. Rather than going, okay, I'm just going to have to swing past McDonald's or KFC. So it's just about having a bit of a loose plan, and that will make a big difference. If you head to the free information section of my website, so just go nourishwithkarina.com/free info. You'll see all sorts of free information there, including my blog, my food reviews, but you'll also see an inspirations tips picture. It's on the left, second one down. And if you click on that, you'll head to my planner, which is basically an empty pro form. And you can just write things down. You can write down some meal ideas. You can write down ingredients. It just print it off and stick it on your counter and have a bit of a plan on a Sunday. It's going to make a big difference. I honestly believe that having some sort of structure will make a difference. Whether you're planning dinners, whether you're planning lunchbox snacks, whether you're planning what you're going to put in the lunchbox, because, gee, that's tricky in itself. Either they're sandwich kids or they're not sandwich kids. And if they're not sandwich kids, you need to have backups. And there's plenty of the alternative ideas. That's why I've created my lunchbox planner, which is a package of all different tips and tools and tricks to help prepare lunchboxes more easily and make them nutritious. And I've got a guide for sandwiches and alternatives. And then I've got a guide of what to exactly put in a lunchbox. And I've got all sorts of tips and recipes and whatnot in that lunchbox planner. So having a plan for what's going in the dinners, what's going in the lunchboxes, perhaps snacks as well on a Sunday, making sure that in the online order you put 3 or 4 snacks that you know you can include in the lunchbox that are semi-healthy. I like to call it the 3-3-3 method. So having 3 healthy snacks, 3 lunch ideas, and 3 dinner ideas. Having that every Sunday can make a real difference to your week. Repetition builds familiarity, so you don't have to have a whole brand new menu every week. That's not real life. That's not easy. And the kids don't necessarily love that anyway. It's nice to have some familiarity and routine. Kids love structure and routine. So whether it's Taco Tuesday, Pasta Wednesday, Pizza Thursday, Schnitzel Friday, Monday could be satay or stir fry, or, you pick what your family likes, but trying to have some sort of structure and routine really helps everybody. So perhaps this Sunday, try to pick 3 dinners that your family usually likes to eat. If you're saying to me, "Karina, my kids will eat none of what I wanna eat. I wanna eat, red curries, and my kids won't even go near them," then I say listen to my podcast episode number 5. It's way back at the beginning, but it's where I teach you how to simplify feeding your kids, feeding them one meal despite having fussy eaters, and I talk about how to deconstruct it and sub out various components so that you're still only cooking one meal for the family. You are being considerate, not necessarily catering and cooking a whole different meal. Because there is a difference between being considerate to fussy eaters and respecting different taste buds, and then catering and cooking a plan B and cooking a plan C for the various fussy eaters. We don't want to be going down that rabbit hole. Okay, my tip number 2 is to be very intentional with what you buy. If we're trying to feed our family more healthily or healthy, whichever word is more correct, just pick which one you want to listen to. Oh, you had to listen to both, sorry. But anyway, moving on, if you want your family to be more healthy, is probably the better way to say it. You need to be intentional with what you choose to put in your online order or what you pick up in the supermarket and put in your trolley. Now, if you've spent any time with me, you will know that I talk a lot about snacks and healthy kids snacks. I do a Friday food review every week on Instagram. I've got my food reviews page, which has got over 100 kids food reviews. So you can either find the click through link on the free information section of my website, or you just go nourishwithkarina.com/food-reviews and you'll see that there. But you need to be intentional with what goes into the trolley and what comes into your pantry and fridge. Because if you're not, then your children are going to gravitate towards those Tim Tams, to those salt and vinegar chips, to that chocolate ice cream. 100%. It's normal. It's human nature. It's kids, right? So you need to be very intentional with what you're putting into the pantry and the fridge, because otherwise they're just going to gravitate to the junk, even though you don't want them to. And if you leave it on the supermarket shelf, it's going to be much easier to well, they can't. They can't have access to it, because it's often the kids too that are left at, not necessarily they're left at home to their own devices. Well, some are walked home from school by their older sibling, and then they have free access to countless packets of, barbecue shapes or tiny teddies or Tim Tams or whatever they want to, lay their hands on. And those foods are, crunchy and salty and sweet and highly addictive, and they just keep coming back more. And that's just a disaster for your child's gut health and immune system. So what we really want to be doing is limiting those foods that actually get into the house. And sure, I'm all about balance and keeping things real, and certainly my kids eat junk too, but limiting those junk snacks, because the more they have them, the more they want them. Those foods activate the brain's reward system. They make them addicted. It happens to all of us. And what we want to do is try to replace those foods with others that are slightly healthier. Look, they can still be snack foods, but for example, swapping a packet of Oreos for a packet of popcorn. So it's still a crunchy packet food, but it's a much better option. So my second tip is to be really intentional with the foods that you bring into your house, because even just stopping the purchase of one, family pack of biscuits and them just not being there means that the family can't eat them. And maybe if you do get a chance, you check out my Healthy Kids recipe book. You cook some healthy recipes from there, like a biscuit, or it might be a black bean brownie or my banana bread. And you can just give them that instead of the Kingston biscuits or the Monte Carlos, or I don't know, whatever, the Tim Tams, or whatever that may normally go into their lunchbox. So being really intentional with what comes into the house is clever, because it then helps you in the long run create a healthier family. If you don't have time to read all the labels and it's just too hard, then grab my Healthy Kids Supermarket Guide. It's really affordable. It's $4.79 at the moment, an introductory price. And it has over 85 healthy kids snacks, breakfast cereals, muesli bars, chips, crackers, and ice creams. So you just head to nourishwithkarina.com/guide and you can grab that. And it's just easier. As I said, in my supermarket planner, you've got heaps of tips and tricks and guides as well. In fact, my supermarket guide is inside my planner. To get that, you go to nourishwithkarina.com/planner, PLANNER, and it just gives it all to you. It's done the thinking for you. It's all laid out for you. And you basically just have to open it up on your app or on your laptop and print it off or just look at it and go, right, okay, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to make the lunchbox this way. It's just done all the thinking for you. And if you're busy and time poor, then grab them because it will make your life a lot easier, especially when the focus is to try and improve your family's health. Okay, moving on to tip number 3. I want you to focus on the environment. I want you to focus on connecting with your child around food rather than being hyper focused on every mouthful that they eat and what goes into their mouth. Because sometimes when we have fussy eaters at dinner time, especially, we can be so hyper fixated on every bite of broccoli or every bite of, meat because they might not be getting enough iron that they eat. And we really lose that ability to connect and have a calm, happy mealtime. And that is so important. And I feel that in this day and age when everyone is so busy and parents are working really late, it's not always possible for the whole family to eat together. But if one parent can at least eat with the child or the children and connect and talk about the day and just talk about life, do life together for 15, 20 minutes, that's it, that you connect with your child. Sometimes we can just rush through the whole day and, you're being pulled from pillar to post. And if it's not lunch boxes and dropping kids off at school and rushing to work or rushing home from work and taking them to sport or getting to the supermarket and getting some food on the plate, serving up dinner, and then it's like all homework and books and bath and bed, and it's just a rush sometimes. And sometimes we don't spend any time connecting with our child. And if you look at the evidence around family meal times and connecting with your children, the social and emotional benefits to your child's well-being from connecting with their family at dinner time is huge. And it far outweighs an extra bite of broccoli or an extra bite of capsicum that they might consume. So, connecting with your child at meal times is a number one priority in my view. Yes, it can be very easy to focus on what they are or aren't eating or talk about it. And being focused on it only stresses them out and makes everything worse. So, I talk a lot about this in my fussy eating program. It's called the 3-week Feeding Kids Reset. And the framework of that program is my kids feeding ecosystem, which is a framework that I've created based on my observations over 25 years as a pediatric dietitian and 13 years as a mother feeding children. It's a feeding ecosystem which has to be working well for your child to learn how to love food. It's got 3 components and it's all broken down and clearly laid out for you. And it's all explained to you in my program where you get to work out where the holes are in your child's feeding ecosystem so that they can learn to love a variety of healthy foods and that mealtimes aren't a big stress. A lot of parents, working parents included, feel a lot of guilt around what their children eat. And when you're so busy and you're rushing and you just feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to put healthy food on the plate, that's not true. Like a healthy meal could be baked beans and toast and some frozen peas, right? It doesn't have to be elaborate, but you just need a plan and you need to be very clear with how you serve up meals so that there are, as I said, food options for the child that might be a little bit fussy, but then there's foods that you as a parent still want to eat. But connecting at meal times is just so important. And so that needs to be a priority for you and for your family. I know it's hard, and often mum will wait for dad to come home from work, or vice versa. Dad will wait for mum to come home from work so that the parents can eat together. But that's not great for the children. So the priority is trying to eat with your child and connecting with your child. As I said, I go into a lot more detail about all of this and your child's feeding ecosystem inside my fuss eating program. It is a standalone program. You can buy it separately to my website, nourishwithkarina.com/3 weeks, or it is one of the programs inside my membership when that opens. Actually, when this podcast drops, my membership will actually be open for newbies. It's going to be the last time for 2025. So this is a great time to actually let you know that if you want to jump inside, then you are very welcome. It won't be open for probably a couple more days. I think it's going to be opening up on Monday, the 27th, and will be closing the evening of Wednesday, the 29th of October. So if you're listening to this episode when it drops on the 28th, then yes, jump in and join us, because it's the way you're going to learn exactly how to take the stress out of feeding kids and simple strategies to get your children eating much better, much more quickly. It's a great community. The mums inside there, and actually we've got a couple of dads now too, are brilliant. Okay, I'll start to wrap it up now in the interest of time, because this segment was all about feeding kids in the fast lane for busy parents. So I don't want this segment to take 2 hours to listen to. But in summary, I wanted to give you 3 quick tips on how to feed kids more healthily in the fast lane, and so that they are still getting good food despite life being chaotic. So my tip number 1 was to plan loosely. Doesn't have to be perfect, but have some sort of plan. And I talked about a 3-3-3 system where you've got 3 good snack ideas, 3 good lunchbox ideas, and 3 good dinner ideas that you can then rotate through the week. Remember that routine and structure is really good for kids, and it's good for us too. It just helps the weeks run more smoothly. Number 2 was shop smart, okay? Leave more of the junk on the supermarket shelves. Don't bring it into your home, because as soon as it gets into your home, it's much harder to say no to the kids, especially if you're not around. And number 3 is focus on calm and connection at mealtimes rather than being hyperfixated on what's going in their mouth. And as I always say, just focusing on one small change that you do consistently, it will add up and it will make a difference, and it gives you momentum. And that's what you need to start making healthy changes for your family despite being really busy. So as I said earlier, if you've loved this episode and you love listening to the Easy Feed, please share it with other families. Please leave me a review. As I said, I've got my guide, my planner, lots of information and freebies, and also useful tools for you to purchase to make feeding kids more easy. And you can find all of that on my website. So to keep it simple, go to nourishwithkarina.com, and then you can navigate the tabs from there. What's the one thing that you're going to change after listening to this podcast episode? I want you to repeat it in your mind right now so that that's helping to consolidate it. And it doesn't have to happen today. Just try and make these simple changes over the week is all we need to be aiming for. Let's not set the bar too high for ourselves, especially as we are starting to sprint towards the end of the year. I wish you a beautiful week, and I look forward to chatting with you next time. Bye for now.